Well, let's get started. John, come here. Get over here. Look in that camera right there. Say hi.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hey, this is Jon Medved. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes, you did.
Jon Medved. He is an amazing member of this church. So with me today, I'm Pastor John, and we have Keith Fife, and we have Jon Medved. And so I was talking to John this morning. He was in here because Keith went and picked him up, took him to breakfast this morning. John was supposed to pay for his breakfast, and somehow or another that got mixed up. Right, Keith?
That's right. I ended up buying my own breakfast.
Oh, man, John, what's up with that?
Oh, I don't know.
You don't know? Well, listen, so I'm kind of excited about this one. John, this guy is amazing. So we show up here on a Sunday morning. What time do you get here, John?
I get here at 6 o'clock with another gentleman.
6 o'clock in the morning. John runs around turning on all the lights. He's here to greet me every time I come through that door. And what do you say almost every time that I see you?
I do say good morning.
Good morning, and there's something else you say.
I think I say, are you staying out of trouble?
Are you staying out of trouble? Who do I pick on today?
Yeah, usually it's who do I pick on today.
Yeah. So this guy, I call him Big John because this guy has a heart and for service and to operate inside ministry, inside the church, and literally second to none, right, Keith?
Absolutely.
So I was talking to John today in the office, and I was trying to come up with the next idea for a video, and I could hear John in there talking to Pastor Keith, and I thought, you know what, there's no better person to interview today than Jon Medved. So here we are. So John, tell me, you told me that you were in church for a little while as a kid back in the 90s, and then something happened. A pastor, his wife had got sick, and so from what time to what time was you out of church?
I would say somewhere between 99 and 2009.
99 and 2009. So that's pretty good while. Something I noticed about John this morning, Keith, was he has an amazing ability to recall dates.
Yes.
I cannot.
Yes.
I barely remember my birthday, John, and you literally are spilling out all these dates like they were yesterday. So that's very impressive.
Well, you know, when I first met John, he was working at Braums.
Yeah.
And it was amazing because he knew almost all of the product code numbers. He would know what they were on the items in the fresh market at Braums.
Really?
Not all of them, maybe, but I mean, he knew a lot of them.
Yep. So let's start there. So, John, how long have you lived in Choctaw?
Since 1987.
1987. You grew up in Choctaw,
Yes.
I guess. How old are you now?
41.
41. Man, he's a man.
Yeah,
you
I know.
made it, John. Good job. You made it. So, you have a pretty awesome story that you were telling me about this morning. Keith had started so Keith had already mentioned you were working at Braums.
Yes.
Where he met you. Keith, tell us a little bit about the Bible study that you do and when you started it at Braums.
So it was years ago, I guess 14, 15 years ago. We've been doing a men's Bible study on Tuesday mornings at 6:30. And we met at the Braums here in Choctaw. And we were doing that every Tuesday morning faithfully. And I would always see John sitting at a table by himself, usually doing,
The Sudoku?
The Sudoku, puzzle from the paper.
Yeah.
That day. And I would, just kind of say hi to him, and then we would go on with our Bible study at a different table, and then he would go on to work. I'm not sure. I think we were meeting at 6:30. I think he started work either at 7 or something like that. But being the good employee he is, he would get there at 6.
Yeah.
But anyways, so he sat there, and I would say hi to him and talk to him. And then one day, I don't know, the Lord just said, hey, invite him over to join you.
Yeah.
And so I did, and he said, okay, thank you. But he didn't come over. And after several weeks of inviting him, one day he just kind of sidled up and sat down there with us that morning at our Bible study. And then at 7 o'clock when he had to go to work, he went on to work.
Yeah.
But he was with us for a while.
And now they can't get rid of me.
Now they can't get rid of you. We thank God for that. Hey, so tell me, what was when you were at Braums working, how long do you remember, you probably know the exact date that they started, but how long do you remember watching them at this Bible study before you become a part of it?
Well, they started at the small Braums first. Then whenever they met the new Braums, it's like you said, a couple of weeks, maybe a month, and then I just felt like I needed to go for some reason, you know.
Well, what was your thoughts? What did you think about them? There's some Bible thumpers, they're weird people over there sitting there reading Bibles. What did you think about
I didn't think that. It just, just seemed like it was interesting to see what they were talking about.
Yeah. Well, so you watched them do this Bible study. Keith that's kind of a little bit different way to, or different place, I guess, to have a Bible study. You don't see very many people having a Bible study out in public, but Keith, what made you decide to do it at Braums?
I don't even know how that got started. We were meeting here at the church for a while, and I think someone just suggested maybe we could go to Braums and have breakfast, because I think we were doing donuts here at the church, and so we thought, well, okay, let's try that out. And I also think that it's good to be out in public and not be ashamed of your faith and be able to talk freely. And it's been amazing at how many people have come up to us and ask us to pray for them.
Yeah.
Just while we're sitting there at the table. Some of the other workers, they'll say, my friend has cancer. Could you guys pray for him? And someone else, a guy one morning just walked up and told us about his wife and her situation, and could we pray for her? And so it's a good testimony to the Lord and our love for the Lord. And then when Jon joined us, it was a real blessing.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that stood out to me for this interview was the fact that when we do church, outside the church walls, that we have an ability, maybe more of an ability, to impact those inside our community or those that might not ever have an opportunity. I don't believe Jon would ever have walked through the doors of Bethel Church Choctaw had Bethel Church Choctaw not went to Braums. And so
I agree. I strongly agree with that statement.
Well, and we're so excited about that. And so, one, I'm extremely grateful for Keith's heart and Keith's vision to reach out to people in our community, because I believe it makes sometimes a larger impact than what we would if we just focused inside our church walls. And so whenever I look at Jon and how much of a servant he is for God, it really inspires me and makes me want to figure out what we can do as a church to go out and impact more people in our community and see if we can't get them to come in and be another Jon in our lives, because you are a huge blessing to Bethel Church Choctaw and to Keith, and I think the relationship you guys have had has been a blessing. And so remind me again, how long has it been that you started going to this Bible study that Keith and you guys started?
I started Braums in 2006. I think 2009?
Yeah, it's probably been 2009. I mean, we're going on 15 years, I know that we've been having this men's Bible study every week. And Jon was, like I said, at first he was skeptical, I think, to come over, but he eventually did. Yeah. Very quiet and reserved, and we got to know him a little bit more, and he kind of opened up a little bit, and then I just it was almost like Jon and I developed a father-son relationship. I mean, it's been really special. I should have brought it in, but he gave me a cup that he made. It was like, you remember that cup?
Yeah.
And it says,
Happy
Father's Day. I'm so glad you're part of my life. Something like that. And I have it sitting on the windowsill there in my office.
Yep. All because of a Bible study at Braums.
Yes.
Yeah. Man. And other things have changed in Jon's life too. As far as his his work employment.
Yeah.
He no longer works at Braums.
Right. So let's talk about this real quick, and then we're going to get to that. So tell me, John had mentioned that he, prior to meeting you guys at Braums, he had been in church as a young kid, but then he got out of church, and then you went to a revival.
Yeah, I went to a revival.
To a revival. What was your perception of Christians? Do you remember what your perception of Christians were before you went to that revival? Or before you met Keith? Were you nervous about Christians? Or?
No, I wasn't nervous.
No?
I've been around church all my whole life. It's just that I was out of church because, I guess, disagreements at the first church.
Yeah.
And so we just parted our ways, and
Had you been hurt by the church?
I wouldn't say me. I would say my mom.
Okay. You got hurt by,
by
some things in the church.
So since I was a kid then, she was the driver.
Yeah.
So I couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so whenever you met Keith at Braums and you started the Bible study with him, how long was it before you showed up to Bethel Church, Choctaw?
I think I showed up that first day off I did on Sunday.
Is that right?
When I was off on a Sunday, I think that's the first time I showed up.
Yeah. What was your experience when you walked through the door at Bethel Church, Choctaw?
They were friendly.
Really? You mean Keith was friendly? It wasn't just at Braums, but when you got here, people were actually friendly, huh?
Lovely and friendly.
Yeah.
You just, I went back to the church I used to go to because somebody else is a preacher there, and I didn't feel the love like I do here.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I've actually heard multiple people. We have a guy, James Everett, here at church, and he was at a couple weeks ago. He was emotional during the altar call, and he said, "John, this is literally one of the most loving churches I've ever been a part of." And so, people like you are an absolute testament to that. And James and myself, I know when I showed up, there was a guy. Ty Burrows, when I walked in, I met him the first time, and a year later, it seems like, we come back to church, and I walk in, and Ty remembered my name.
Yeah.
John, right? And I'm like, wow, this has got to be a place for me. I didn't feel like I was anything special, but to show up and somebody to literally remember my name and to remember who I was and to be friendly to me, it meant a lot to me as a newcomer to this church. And so, John, you walked in, you got to meet all the friendly people here at Bethel Church, Choctaw, and tell me how your life has changed since then.
Well, I just feel like that the one day during service, actually, they played a song, Amazing Grace, My Chains Are Broken, or My Chains Are Gone. And I just think that's how I felt at the moment, because if it wasn't for this getting back involved in church, I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
Yeah.
And doing the things that I'm doing now. Because I feel like that I wouldn't be doing them.
Yeah. You felt like, you told me in my office that you felt like you had chains on you at that moment. And when they played that song, you felt like the chains had
Yeah, my chains are, yes.
Yep. And you've been walking in freedom since then?
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me what you do here at the church. Since you've been a part, how long did it take you to get involved in ministry? I feel like you're a huge part of our ministry.
Yes.
Right? So tell me what it is, how long it took for you to actually get involved in ministry here at the church once you started.
I think since the Bible study.
Yeah.
Because I'd come over after I get off work, visit,
Yeah.
And even if they needed something at that time, I'd help them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, John always wants to know what he can do to help.
Yeah.
And he runs at it. He doesn't drag around. He goes 100 miles an hour at it. And he's the kind of servant that if I say, John, can you do this? Sure. And boom, he goes and does it.
Yeah.
And then he also keeps me lined out, because he'll look at something and go, he'll call me, he'll text me sometimes, you just put an event on Facebook and it's got the wrong date. Okay, John, thanks. And I have to go in there and edit the event and put the right date on it, because he noticed it and I didn't notice it. And he'll do the same with the bulletin. He'll look at the bulletin and he goes, is this right? No, I got to fix it.
A man for details. This guy. So what you show up here at
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock in the morning, and what do you do whenever you get?
Well, we get the lights turned on, get the coffee brewing, and then sometimes I go over to the East Campus building where the kids are.
Yeah.
Sometimes they need the heat turned on, so I get that turned on so they're not cold in the mornings.
Yeah. Yeah.
He gets all the TVs turned on.
Yeah. He does that.
Sunday school room's unlocked.
Man.
Then when I get here, I print out prayer requests. He takes those and puts them out. If I print out your notes for the sermon that day, he'll take those and put them out for me. He puts out all the Sunday school envelopes, for the classes.
Yeah.
He takes those up to the classes and opens up the classrooms. I don't know. It's just a lot of little things that have to be done.
Yeah.
This guy takes care of all of them.
Irreplaceable, John. I'm telling you. I don't know. It would
tithe
take us
envelopes.
5 guys, I think, 5 volunteers to replace you. Your dedication is really inspiring and overwhelming at times to just think. And I keep going back to the fact in my head about what led you here, and it was just the fact of doing church outside of the church walls. And so I want to not congratulate, but commend the men's ministry and Keith for going out and doing that and showing people love outside the church walls, because you are the fruit of that labor. You may not even have thought it was a labor, and that may not have been your intent to go out and try to win somebody for Christ or bring somebody into the church by showing church outside of church. But by doing so, literally in our everyday events or the things that we do outside of church, we could be impacting somebody and for the kingdom of God. And so, Keith, tell me what differences you've seen in Jon, the Jon that you met all those years ago, and the Jon today.
Really, it's been an amazing difference. When I first met him, he was very quiet, very reserved. Didn't really want to talk a lot about his situation. But over the years, confidence built between Jon and I. We were able to build some trust.
Yeah.
And he would then kind of share with me his work situation, kind of what was going on there. Wasn't really happy with that, and revealed a little bit to me about his growing up and his school, and some of the teachers that meant some things to him at Choctaw High School and helped him. And then when I would ask him sometimes, because he had a hard time at his work there at Braums, I said, "Well, did they give you raises and stuff?" And he's like, "No, I hadn't had a raise in so long."
Yeah.
And so I wanted to help Jon get into a better situation.
Yeah.
I mean, the Lord sometimes puts people like Jon in my life for me to mentor, talk to, help, assist, whatever I can do.
Yeah.
It's one of my, it is a gift. And so in talking with Jon, I asked him, had he thought about ever changing jobs? And he's like, "Well, I don't know, because he's committed. Once he starts something, he sticks with it, And so we kind of worked around that, and I found some things for him, and I don't know how deep you want to go into that, but
Yeah, let's hear it.
so Jon went in school. He had some special needs, kind of that he had requirements with education, and so because of that, there's a program here in Oklahoma City. It's called Dale Rogers Training Center, that takes some individuals that have special needs special challenges in their life, whether they're physical or if they're intellectual or whatever. They will help them find jobs because they have contracts with the government for food service and janitorial service. And so Jon and I went to there. I set up a meeting with the director, and we went over there and had an interview. And Jon had an interview and made an application with them. And he had to get some records from the school, to show that he had been through special ed classes there at Choctaw.
Yeah.
And so we got all that worked out, and they hired him and put him to work at the FAA as a janitor. And so he got an immediate nice raise from what he was making. Then he got a job that had benefits, health benefits, which he never had before. He got a job that had vacation days and regular raises,
And now 401k.
and a 401k, and just a lot of different things like that. And how long have you been there now?
I've been with Dale Rogers Training Center for about 10 years, 11 years. No, April 2012. So 12 years?
12, yeah, it'll be 12 years.
12 years?
12 years now he's been with them. And do you mind me telling about you and driving on the interstate and stuff?
Yeah.
You don't mind me
Go
telling?
ahead.
Okay. So Jon had never been past I-40 and Choctaw Road.
Yeah.
Okay. And so.
And how old were you at this time? How old was
So you'd have been 29?
Somewhere around there.
you? Yeah.
29 years old, okay? And so I said, well, where you're going to work is on not Morgan Road, MacArthur and 89th,
Right.
74th, somewhere down in there. So we drove over there as a test run. I drove and he just went with me.
Yeah. And
I said, this is how you go.
this is my first time on the interstate.
First time on the interstate. And so then,
I take the wrong exit.
yeah, well, but then the first morning that he had to work, I took him.
Yeah.
Did I take you that morning, or did you just follow me?
I think I followed you.
He followed me, okay, and we did that. And did we do that for a couple of days?
No, I don't remember.
Okay, it was a couple of days just to make sure that he could get there and he knew
Yeah.
where to go, because it was all new to him. And being on the interstate, he never. I said, "Well, listen, you can get." This was back before all the construction. I said, "You can get in this lane, and you never have to get out of this lane until you exit at MacArthur." And that's making transitions from I-40 to 240 to 44
Yeah,
to Airport
yeah.
Road. I said, "You can stay. This lane will take you all the way to MacArthur, where you get off."
Right.
And so that worked out. But and he started driving on the interstate then.
Good job. And been doing it ever since, huh? Jon, something Keith had said stood out to me. He said that there were some teachers at Choctaw High School that helped you out or were big in your life.
Yes.
Or tell me, you want to, in case one of those happened to watch this video, what would you like to tell them, what they meant to you in your life?
Well, there's several teachers throughout my school that's been a blessing to me. There's a teacher, her name is Miss Boss. She's my speech teacher. And she's my speech teacher for at least 6 years. And she's just, helped me with my speech and things like that. And in a way, she was like maybe a second or third mom.
Yeah.
Because she was nice.
Yeah.
And then there's other teachers, just like there's a Susie Chandler. She's one of my high school teachers, and she just helped me through with some things. Just even bus drivers that we had, they just all
Came together and loved on you?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So God's placed people in your life to really impact you in a positive way,
Yes.
it seems like.
There's even, right now, even at work, there's workers that I work with in the buildings that I work with that if I were to step in the wrong direction, they'd be on me like hotcakes. To get me out of that situation.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so one last question. If you had to look at Keith and say what he's meant to you, or tell this camera what Keith has meant to you over the last several years, what would you say?
They more like a father figure and a mentor, which I didn't really have growing up because
How old were you when your father passed away?
it was March of '98. I was 15 years old.
Oh, wow. Was that hard on you?
A little.
Yeah.
I had my mom and my grandma, and then my grandma passed away in 2005.
And that was hard on you as well.
Yeah, a
right?
little bit.
Yeah.
It was harder on my mom.
So when your dad passed away, so that was when you were 15, and did you have any like father figures in your life up until you had met Keith?
No, I didn't have
No.
anybody.
Really?
Well, I'm going to tell a funny story about John. So John, I would invite him over to the house occasionally. And I live south of Choctaw, south of I-40 off Choctaw Road. So he was venturing out just to get to my house. And one day we were there, and John's got a very strict diet. He only eats certain things. And I said, John, do you like olives? He says, no. And so I said, well, have you ever tasted an olive? No. I said, well, here, try one of these black olives.
Yeah.
You would have thought I had poisoned him. His reaction and his face when he ate that black olive, he didn't even swallow. He spit it back out. He said, I don't like them.
You don't eat them today?
No.
Yeah, you'd have thought I had poisoned him.
Oh,
The way he acted when he ate that black olive.
No black olives. So do you have any funny stories you want to share, or any fond memories of being at church here or being a part of Keith's life?
Took him to a football game,
Yeah, he took me to a football game.
college football up
Yes.
OSU.
Really?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Just football.
Just football?
But you'd never
You didn't
been,
go
right?
out?
No.
Yeah. He's done a lot of firsts with me, things like that.
The men's group went to
Fishing?
fishing. That was the first time for me to go fishing at Lake Tascoma.
Really? Did
Yeah.
you catch anything?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we just
No,
started
that was,
fishing.
that was the first time for
That
me
was
to do
the
that.
first. Yeah.
To go out there and do that.
Is that right? Old Papa Keith done took you fishing. How about that? Well, that's good. Well, what about God? Do you feel like God has had a huge impact in your life since you've been coming here to Bethel?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't for me getting back in church, or getting involved back in church, I wouldn't be doing things I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Not helping somebody move to Missouri, for example.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done that. I probably wouldn't have done that if I went back in church.
Yeah. Yeah. Serving other people. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Well, listen, I will end it with this. John, you're an amazing guy.
Thank
I
you.
call you Big John not because you're 6 foot tall, but I call you Big John because of your heart. And I truly mean that. Every time I walk in and I see you, it inspires me. And I look at you as if you're this giant of faith in this church and in my life. And so it is extremely inspiring every time I walk up and you open that door and you say, am I supposed to pick on you today? And so I'm very grateful that Keith has had a part of your life and that Keith started that Bible study and that Bible study impacted you, and then you're here impacting people in this church today. So every time I call you Big John, know that's because that's the way I look at you. Not because you're 6 foot tall, but because you have a heart of a giant. And so I love you, and I know this church loves you. And church, I want to encourage you that to not take anything for granted, that every opportunity has an ability to impact somebody's life in a massive way, and not just their life, but even their eternity. And so for that, Keith, great job. I'm proud of you. Keith, it's not just one example, but there's many examples we could spend in here and talk about how many people Keith has impacted, and Keith has a heart of gold, and so for that, you should be commended. You're an amazing, amazing man. So, Jon, look in that camera with me right there and say, God bless.
God bless you.